There we go. All right, welcome everybody. I'm showing 9 o'clock on one of my devices and 8:59 on my other device. So we're just going to go ahead and get into this because I'm excited for day 2 of our virtual volunteer fair. The virtual volunteer fair was started as an option for the master naturalists during the era of COVID to engage in virtual service work that could be done either at home or at a distance individually, and again at a distance during times when we were in shutdown and not able to get out and participate in large group activities. But then as we continued with these virtual volunteer fairs, this is our 5th virtual volunteer fair now, we found that our master naturalists are asking for these opportunities to connect with new partners, new conservation organizations, engage in virtual service that could be done with, again, with new partners and new ways, but also done during the hot summer months here in Texas, as it's going to get to 110 plus degrees with tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but it feels like tomorrow sometimes. And so these are great opportunities for our master naturalists to continue their service and find new ways to participate. As we do with any of our webinars, we like to start off with our meeting etiquette. So today's WebEx is set so that our attendees cannot turn their videos on or turn their audios on, and that is done intentionally so that we can give our project hosts the attention, the time, and the respect that they deserve, as they're here to share a lot about their projects, and we want to make sure that we're sticking on time with that today. We will, however, allow have our chat open today, and that's where you as the attendee can participate in discussions, question with your project host that you're interested in. Michelle and I will be monitoring the chat, but help us out. Use the best spelling possible and avoid acronyms in your chat questions so that Michelle and I can ask the question as you intend for it to be asked to our project host today. And then if you chat to everyone, that way we can all participate in that same discussion. Our chat is going to be recorded as well as this webinar today. So if you are watching this live, fear not, we are recording today. But if you're watching this as a recording later, I'm glad you were able to join us at a later date and participate in the virtual volunteer fair after we had it. Our agenda times are going to stay, we're going to stay strict on our agenda times. Judith Green is our MC for today, and she is going to be very accurate with our timing today. This is like a speed dating for projects for our volunteers. And again, we've allotted 15 minutes for our project hosts, and we're going to stick strict to that. If a presenter finishes up early, we're not going to move on. We're going to keep straight to that 15-minute mark. That also allows for our volunteers, if you've pre-reviewed any of these projects and you want to come and go for those specific projects that you're interested in, you can, and you don't have to worry about us skipping over or starting early. We will stick strict to our agenda today. And again, that recording that we're doing right now will be on our website by this afternoon. Day 1 and day 2 will be on the website by this afternoon. So our presenters, again, this is speed dating, so they have been given a list of suggested topics to put in their presentation and to be able to give you the most information possible as master naturalists. We've asked them to include their project description and overview, the expectations and outcomes, the logistics, what you will actually be doing, if there is any experience, equipment, or training that's needed for you to participate in that project. And then the what's in it for you, what is the benefit for you as a master naturalist to participate in that specific project. They'll also provide their project location and their contact information. It's going to go fast today, so if there's some of this information that you didn't catch the first time, don't worry about that. We actually had all of the project hosts fill this information out, and we have compiled it into a catalog. So we have a project catalog on our website with their contact information, with their project details, with additional resources in those descriptions as well. And so you can find that project catalog by going to our virtual volunteer fair page or post. So you go to our naturalist news on the front end of our website, and it's the second one down right now. But that virtual volunteer fair link, Michelle's dropped it, is dropping the catalog link in the chat, and Michelle, if you'll drop the whole page link in the chat as well. That page has everything. It is the kitchen sink for the virtual volunteer fair. It has this project on it. It has the agenda that we're going to follow today. It's where the recordings will be. It also has additional resources that Michelle's going to go into about VMS and how to sign up to be a volunteer. We're going to go fast today, but again, don't worry, we're recording and we've got all of this information on our website as well for you to review. So with that, as our project hosts are sharing their information, then the next question you're going to ask is, how do I sign up? Michelle, do you want to talk about that?
We have, for signing up for projects today, we have a SurveyMonkey link, which we're not going to drop just a second, but as the presentations start, we'll drop the SurveyMonkey link there. And how to sign up for any project on the list that we've presented over the past 2 days. You would just add your name to any of the projects that you're interested in there. And that survey is going to be kept open through May 24th. After May 24th, we will pull the information from the surveys and send that to the project hosts, which are the presenters today. And then after that, it's in the project host, the presenters court to follow up with our Master Naturalist volunteers that have signed up. And some of them may vet some of the volunteers for the projects. They may also let you know that there's additional advanced training that may be needed to work on some of the projects. And so they'll get that set up and connect with you on how to get started or how to get more training to get started. We know that there will be more volunteers that sign up for some projects than spaces available. So just keep that in mind. If you don't get a call back on some of the projects you put your name on. And then just know that we will likely do another virtual volunteer fair for more opportunities. It may not be this year, but typically in the spring, preparing for the hot summer months, we'll probably have something annually. Next slide. One of the questions I know you probably have is, how do I log hours for attending this session today? So the quick facts on that is, number one, make sure you are signed up for the virtual volunteer service fair in the VMS. There is a project you can sign up for attending the virtual volunteer service fair today. And so you'll sign up for that, make sure it's in your drop-down list in VMS when you log in. And then when you're done, you've reviewed the sessions or listened to the presentations that you want to listen to today, you'll report back to that item in your drop-down list. For every presentation you listen to, it's about 0.25 hours of service or training. And if you listen to the entire session today, it's up to 2.25 hours of service performed for the day. When you do report, just make sure that you, in the service performed area, just make sure you mention that you reviewed or attended the project fair intros at the virtual volunteer project fair. So that's how to log hours for attending today, or if you're listening and viewing the virtual volunteer service fair presentations that are recorded. And we are recording today. The next question you might have is how to log service hours for projects that you end up working on. And so basically there are two types of service projects being presented. One is truly virtual projects that are being presented today. And when you work on and report on any of the truly virtual projects that are being presented today, you will make sure that you have the statewide project TMN virtual volunteer service fair in your drop-down box, that you've registered for that. And then you'll report your TMN hours back to that once you start working on any of the projects presented today that are the virtual projects. The other type of projects that we have today being presented are place-based projects. So place-based projects, if they're applicable to your area, they will need local chapter pre-approval, pre-review and pre-approval before you start reporting your hours to it. So and just a reminder that not all place-based projects are for every chapter. So there are a couple on our agenda today that are projects for chapters in specific areas of the state or in very close proximity to those locations. And we have presented those. We have those on the agenda today because they're great examples of some place-based projects that could be recreated in other areas of the state. So even if you're a chapter that is far away or not within that ecoregion for a place-based project, hopefully this helps your chapter get thinking on how to connect with a similar organization like the one presenting today in your location that you could recreate the project because they're good examples. We don't have as many kind of community science, citizen science projects being presented today, but just keep in mind that we do have some guidelines for tracking service and criteria for service working on community science projects like iNaturalist or others. And so we've done some of the homework with some of the projects presented that if they're being presented, they are most likely approvable as service projects within your local area if they are not a truly all virtual service project, like we talked about in the previous slide. So we'll drop, I think Mary Pearl has dropped the community science guidelines there in the chat. And they are for any questions or additional questions, follow-up questions on community science guidelines and reporting your service on community science projects as master naturalist. There are some tip sheets and the guides that are on our website and then on the links that Mary Pearl dropped in the chat today.
All right, let's get into the agenda today. Again, Judith Green is going to be our MC, and you can see we have some pretty fantastic presentations today. We'll start with an Eclipse educator's presentation, roll into macroinvertebrates and TEKS programs, virtual tour of Texas, some virtual-based projects, and then as Michelle mentioned, the last three presentations on today's agenda are place-based projects, but we found them to be wonderful examples of ways that master naturalists can engage with partners in their local ecoregion. And so if you are not within the service area for the last three projects, don't completely write off these projects because they might spur some great ideas and great ways for you to partner with other organizations that might be in your area. So we encourage you to stick around and listen to those three projects as well because they are just really cool ideas. And really great projects to be able to engage with today. And then last but not least, Michelle, you want to talk about this?
Yes. So something new that our agency is doing is if we're collecting just some information, the survey is completely voluntary. If you could help us complete the survey, doing so supports future events like this. And I'm going to drop a link in the chat, or if you're able to take your cell phone now and hover over that QR code at the top, you can get to the same information. But then I will also drop a link in the chat. So completely voluntary. If you could fill it out and help us support future events like this.
All right. So with that, Judith, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will give our first speaker. I'm showing we've got about a minute left, but I'll give our first speaker the presenter rights so we can get started today.
Great. Good morning, everybody. I will be notifying our speakers around the 13 to 14 minute mark if they're running a little bit long on their presentation, just to kind of give them a heads up that their time is running out. Otherwise, we'll just continue on the scheduled time as Michelle noted before. So that way, if you need to bow out for one presentation or two, then you can come back and know that our presentations will continue. In addition, the project catalog has the presenter's contact information in it. So if for some reason your question goes unanswered in the chat, you can contact the presenter directly if you have a question about the project in particular and the presenter is not able to stay after and answer those questions if for some reason we don't get to your questions. All right, so I have 9:14 still, so we have a few seconds. If Dorian, if you want to open up your audio just so we can make sure we can hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me
Awesome.
okay?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Marvelous.
So Dorian is our first presenter today. Dorian Janney. She's the Education Outreach Coordinator with NASA, GSFC, and GPM. And Dorian, I will let you explain those acronyms if you would, please. But she's going to be presenting on Eclipse Educators, which is actually a cool project that will probably only happen this year until quite a while thereafter. I mean, this is a one-time opportunity.
2044, folks,
Yes.
2044. Like, this is, talk about a crazy, just amazing alignment. Wait till I tell you like how all this is aligned. It's really cool. But I wanted to start by saying I had the pleasure of living in Texas for several years. I had my first child in Texas. We lived in Houston. And this is the most brilliant idea because I remember when I was telling a friend what the seasons were like. I live in Maryland and we had been in Texas because my former husband was a welder. And I said, the seasons, well, they're hot, hotter, and monsoon. So I think what a brilliant, brilliant idea to have this sort of opportunity available. I'm super excited to be a part of it. And yeah, so what I do is I work for the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission, that's the GPM, and I work at Goddard Space Flight Center, which is over in Maryland. So I was mentioning to you that there has been this amazing alignment. This truly is the opportunity of a lifetime because not only are the sun, the moon, and the earth aligning in such a way that we are going to see the most amazing natural phenomena, but they are happening right over Texas, 2 in a row. The first one's going to be in October of this year. And speaking of alignment, it is going to be during the Master Naturalist annual meeting in Texas, in McAllen, Texas. So I will be there. I'm so looking forward to being there. You do not have to be there in order to be a part of this Eclipse Educator project that I'm going to be telling you about. This is an opportunity. I was reading through the things that you work on as master naturalists in Texas, and I thought, if you were to take out the word natural environment and replace it with natural phenomena, this is absolutely, this kind of a project will meet all of the various types of things that you're working toward. And even though we're focusing on natural phenomena instead of specifically natural environment, although we're going to tie some of that in, how important it is to involve and engage all members of our community in the awe and the wonder and being inspired by what's happening in our natural world to therefore have a real sense of stewardship and ownership for it. So what this project will do is provide education and outreach related to these two natural phenomena to as many folks in Texas as possible. If you decide to join this cohort, you're going to be learning the science behind eclipses, and you'll learn that at your own pace because I'll show you how I keep it all on a website that I've prepared and will continue to add to. Very importantly, you'll learn how to safely observe both of these eclipses. They're going to be a little different. One's called an annular and one's called just a regular total solar eclipse. And best of all, we're also going to be sharing with each other a wide variety of resources that could be used with audiences across all ages. What are the expectations? The expectation is that you're going to gain a wealth of background information about eclipses, and also you're going to be involved in conducting some research that helps us better understand how eclipses impact our natural world. You're going to be empowered to engage with citizens across Texas in all kinds of different settings to teach them whatever you feel that audience is available for, what's developmentally appropriate. The science behind eclipses, definitely how to safely observe them, and have in your tool belt this wide array of different teaching tools and techniques that you can use. You're also going to be helping NASA conduct research in two ways. The first is you will be collecting data before, during, and after both of these eclipses to document changes in the natural environment. How do birds, insects, other animals, how does their behavior change during these natural phenomena? And then we're also conducting another special study with this particular group. We have an external evaluation team to help us better understand how to engage and meet the needs when we're working with lifelong learners, with people age 55 and older. Project logistics. This is primarily a virtual project, and there are no limit to the volunteers. It's a little bit hybrid in that we are hoping that you will take what you learn and take it to another audience, or 2 or 3 or 7, and help other people in your community understand what is going to be happening, what's going on. So I've made this, I tend to be pretty organized, as I can see that the people running this program are, and I've pulled together 2 different ways in which primarily we will be interacting with each other. One of these is called a base camp. And once you have decided you wanted to join this project and I accept you, you will be included in this base camp, and it's just one-stop shopping here. Here we'll keep documents related to multimedia resources and science and activities, and have our schedule. And then if there's things we want to talk about and chat about, we have what's called a little campfire there. So it's just a super easy, very effective way of not having a long Google Doc that you've got to keep going back and forth to, but having it all there. Then I've also pulled together a website that the website will not change. It will always be the same. And this is where you will go to see what I've talked about the eclipses, new information I will put up here. Every 2 weeks, I'll send an email to participants, letting them know, here's the latest and the greatest. Here's what you can find if you go to our story map. And I'll just give a little information, and then you'll get to go in at your leisure and depending on how much information you're interested in. This is really a choose your own adventure project. Here you can click and just see my bio, get a better feel for who I am. Here I am over here interacting with some preschoolers, and I was teaching them about actually they're probably elementary school students. Yep.
We're still seeing just your PowerPoint presentation. We're
Oh,
not
no
seeing
worries.
what
Well,
you
let me go back to that. Easy enough, when you click on the story map, you will see all those great things. I was seeing it, but I understand how these silly things work. So no worries at all. Very flexible schedule. Anytime I happen to do a training, or if I invite subject matter experts in to talk, I will always have recordings, and all of that will be available right there in that story map. Every participant will be involved any way that you decide you want to be involved. You'll engage fellow Texans in a wide variety of ways and learn from each other and share your successes. So this project, in hearing that we would find out May 24th, I would probably reach out to people around May 25th, give you the base camp information and give you the story map information, and then we would get started Monday, and every other week, so bi-weekly, I would send a new email giving some information, and based on the needs and interests of this group, that will also determine the flow. That will determine if somebody's interested in knowing about the history of eclipses and how Kings, some examples of how kings used to use these natural phenomena, hire astronomers, and use these in order to convince their subjects to pay taxes. We'll have history. I mean, there's just so far we can get into with something as cool as this. So, in part, your interest will drive this. There is something I will want you to do, and I'll let you know that in that first email when I reach out to you. We do not have to use this as part of your outreach work, but I'm going to show you how to use this NASA-sponsored free app on your phone. And right now you don't see Eclipse, but on July 11th, we're going to add Eclipse, and we will have a 2-hour meeting just for Texas Master Naturalists about how to use that tool. So I'd like folks to have downloaded this and have played with it a little bit to have a feel for how this app works. And it may even be that you decide, hey, these are really fun tools, this land cover, clouds, trees, even mosquito habitat mapper, and will really fit in with the other work you're doing with Master Naturalist. Make sure you have the ability to access emails and view Basecamp. Training will be provided throughout the next year. There is that July 11th webinar that if you didn't attend, we'd have the recording. I'm going to offer an office hour based on whoever joins this, people's availability. And every week during that hour, virtually, I will be there. If you feel like showing up and have questions, we can chat. If we just want to chat about other things, that's fine. And I will invite NASA subject matter experts to come and give virtual presentations from time to time. So to finish this up, benefits for you, share the awe. This is going to be so cool. Spark the wonder, spread the joy. This Train the Trainer effort needs you to help Texans of all ages prepare for these 2 eclipses, which will cover much of Texas, both of them, and that's going to be pretty amazing. Be a part of this NASA-sponsored citizen science effort to better understand the impact of solar eclipses on our natural world. And you will help us develop a continuum of best practices and ways to engage and involve audiences of all ages in safely observing and understanding eclipses and collecting data. And this will become a legacy product for NASA. You're going to gain a deeper understanding about NASA science and how we better protect and understand our home planet. I wanted to show you a few things during the 2017 eclipse that I did, maybe gives you some ideas. Come back here, back one, come back, boop, boop. Over here, I was working with my local library in Maryland, even though we were not on the path of totality. I went and I worked with elementary school kids and preschoolers. I let them look at the sun with solar glasses. I'll make every effort to ensure that you have them. Should you decide that you're going to be doing something like this, let me know how many. I went to community centers and I would just tell people about what's going to happen. I can certainly get you some materials, things like this handout sun. Then I went to Oregon where the path of totality was. And I went to the college and I gave a presentation. My husband came with me and we went to a brewery and I gave a presentation. Over here, I was at a community college, gave a presentation, and here I was with elementary school students at a library. We will work on, and I will get for you, presentations that would cover all ages, and I will help you to create these. So I will serve as kind of a fire hose of resources so you would feel comfortable. You could also, of course, go to senior centers. You could go to scout groups. You could go to schools, whatever seemed to work best for you in your environment. We happen to do a really cool thing, and there'll be a link at the end of this, which Mary Pearl will share with you. You can look at it later. We made the Baseball Hall of Fame and also the Guinness Book of World Records for being at the first minor league baseball game that was paused for a solar eclipse. And here's my husband. I set him up with a solar observing telescope, and that's my nephew because my family lives out there. And here we were at the ball game, getting everybody to stop and observe this amazing, amazing natural phenomena. So here we are, like I say, things are just aligning perfectly, and I'm so stoked. And so I hope that you'll consider joining this project and for the next year, because this annular eclipse is going to occur on October 15th, and this total eclipse is going to occur on April 8th of 2024. And you are right here where my friend, two of these eclipses are going to be occurring. So I thank you so much, and I hope you will consider being a part of this exciting project.
Thank you so much, Dorian. That was like on cue. So we
Thank
have
you.
a little less than a minute. I think there was one, I don't see any questions, but there was one comment about getting the app. They were somehow struggling to get it, but I'm not sure if Mary Pearl, did Mary?
Yeah, you can go to that Globe website
Okay.
that I mentioned, and it's available there. The other question was about the July 11th presentation that Dorian referred to. That is our TMN Tuesday event, where we will have a series of NASA Eclipse speakers, including Dorian, talk about the upcoming events, providing that additional education for our master naturalists so they have those tools in their toolbox with this upcoming October 14th event and April 8th event.
And no one need worry about the app, only in that when we do have our, first meeting with my office hours, should anyone have any trouble at all, that's where I will walk you through it. I'll have my app on, you'll have yours on. Go outside, we'll make observations. So, try to download it, but don't stress over it.
Okay, thank you so much, Dorian. Again,
Pleasure.
hopefully everyone will participate on this. This is awesome.
Cool.
So our next speaker is going to be Melissa Felty, and she is the Conservation Education Manager with Texas Parks and Wildlife. And her talk today will be Macroinvertebrate Guide and Student Worksheet project. And so, Melissa, if you want to go ahead and upload and share your screen, we'll get you started as soon as
All right,
we
perfect.
can.
And I'll do a mic
It's
testing.
loading. Okay,
Pamphlets are cool.
yes. And I do see your presentation, so feel free to get started as soon as you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Melissa, and I'm based out of headquarters, and I oversee the Texas Aquatic Science and the Texas Waters program. And that's what this presentation is going to help with. So it's the Texas Macroinvertebrate Guide and Worksheet. Sure that it advances. There we go. So what this worksheet is the bug picking data sheet. So with working with this in the past 5 years, I've noticed that there's a lot of species that are missing off of that worksheet. And the questions on the bottom are really not that engaging or inquiry-based and things like that, and stimulate the teachers to provide interpretive data of what they just found in the field. But the first thing is let's just talk right about what a macroinvertebrate, what they are. They're small organisms without a backbone, so they have an exoskeleton. They're visible with the naked eye, so macro, this is you can see them when you catch them in the net. They are not micro invertebrates, so you don't need a microscope, and they're large enough to be easily collected as well too. Now, the one thing is that they are bioindicators. And so what a bioindicator is that they offer the direct measurement for the condition of the body of water that you're studying. So what I normally have is a worksheet. So this is, I was just in the field doing one of these. So I normally laminate this. And then there is also a dichotomous key that goes along with it that I laminate. So those are all parts of the project, and I'm going to just share those with whoever is interested in this project. But the main thing is this bug picking data sheet, as well as possibly changing it from bug picking to maybe habitat assessment, but that's all in the discussion that'll happen with whoever signs up for this opportunity. So the project incomes would be a new habitat assessment sampling worksheet. So just to go back really quick, this bug picking data sheet, you'll see on the bottom, it talks about, it has 3 questions to help interpret data with between the students and the teachers. And it doesn't have to be students and teachers. I was just at Becoming an Outdoors Women, and I did this with the participants. And so it can be anybody doing macroinvertebrate sampling. But then you'll see it says this water appears to be not polluted, okay, or polluted. So possibly changing that to have where there's going to be gradient, number gradients with the group 1, group 2s, and group 3s. You'll see that it talks about pollution, sensitivity, or tolerance. And so making that a little bit more math that's in there for the students, and actually having an actual set number to that. That's all part of the outcome of redoing this worksheet and making it more of a habitat assessment. And the other thing is that a new macroinvertebrate identification guide. The last couple of years, I've reached out to some partner agencies and I was like, hey, do we have a Texas-specific macroinvertebrate guide? And the answer seemed to be no. If anybody is out there and they do have that, please, 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 I just want to see the chat really quick. Everything shifted and moved when I went live, so actually I don't see the chat right now. And so if anybody knows of any Texas-specific macroinvertebrate guide, either sign up for this opportunity or just or send it to me, and I have my email at the end as well too. But the reason why I put these 3 pictures on there is these are 3 species and 3 types of macroinvertebrates that are regularly found in our waterways, and they are not on the bug picking sheet. So the top one is a planaria, which is a flatworm. They're actually really cute for the students to look at because you can see their eyes, and well, their eyes, and they're like, they look like they're cross-eyed. So they're actually quite cool to look at, and those are regularly found in our waterways, and it's not on our sheet. The one that's on the bottom right, that's a water penny. And so we find those in our waterways. That's not on our sheet. Now the bottom one, some people can say is that's a micro microinvertebrate. However, if you were to drop a pen or a pencil on a piece of paper and you would see that dot, so you can actually see those swimming around in the water, in the bucket when the kids collect it. So that's something that is really cool for the kids to be able to see, even that little tiny black dot just swimming around, and letting them know and showing them a blown up picture on the species identification guide. So these are 2 outcomes. And the one thing I want to say is with this is it's a possibility that we may go photographs. So on here, there's photographs, but then also just by, there's also, and I've got a picture later, keeping it as line drawings. And that's the discussion that we would have with all the partners on whether what we wanted to go towards for the final outcome, whether it be photographs or the line drawings. There we go. So for the program logistics, it's about 1 to 3 volunteers, and it's all going to be done at home virtually. If we decided to go to photographs and actually really make it a Texas specific, the reason why I originally didn't have the field in there as a location, but that would be anybody who's really, really interested and really a go-getter and wants to actually take pictures of native species that are here in Texas. That's something that we can look at as well too. There are really great websites that are out there that for educational purposes only we can use their images, and so it would just be getting permission to use those, so we don't have to be in the field. But if anybody really wanted to get out in the field and look for those macroinvertebrates and truly make a Texas-specific identification guide, then they're more than welcome to do that. But it would still be, you can go out by yourself. So it is still an individual project. Very flexible time commitment. What I say is there is the cute picture things I saw that pop up. We got to make some fun when we're doing these presentations, and I think that monkey is possibly a primate is taking a picture of a macroinvertebrate, right? So the flexible time commitment, it is an initial project meeting of about 1 hour. And so that would be me meeting with the potential volunteers through this amazing volunteer fair. And so getting the project going, talking about and sharing all the resources of all the, you can't see them here, but I have guides everywhere on my desk. So there's loads of different resources that are already out there. So sharing those. And then the actual project is variable hours. The reason why is it's going to depend on the scope of work. So are we going to try and go out in the field and photograph our own to make our own Texas specific field guide, or are we just going to ask for permission to use those drawings? And so that's where it's going to be completely open to the variable hours and the scope of the work. And also the number of meetings with collaborators. So I've already, Larry with 4-H, Archis Grubb is our TPWD macroinvertebrate. There are a lot of people that had interest in redoing this bug picking guide. So it's being the lead for those meetings as well too, and bringing those collaborators together. So that's where the hours are going to be variable. The completion date I'm hoping is by December, the end of this year, December 2023, if possible. So the experience, equipment, and advanced training that's needed. The experience, I would like the person, the 1 to 3 volunteers to have some kind of macroinvertebrate species and sampling knowledge preferred. If not, it's really fun. This is one of my favorite activities to do with students and adults. So if it's something that you don't have that experience, but you're interested in this, please still sign up, but if possible, having that sampling and species knowledge as a preference would be great. The other thing is really willing to touch insects and other aquatic wildlife and the plants. So if you are going into the field, some people do not like creepy crawly bugs. I love them. Some of the plants that are in the waterways are quite gooey, and some people just don't want to touch the algae and things like that. So you must be willing to touch the insects if that's a route that we choose to go. For equipment, it's the computer and the internet for our virtual meeting. As well as forming the form development tool, whether that's going to be Word, Publisher, Canva. I have no idea what we're going to decide on, and that's going to come out from the meetings. As well as being a state agency, it does have to be ADA accessible. So working with our creative services and to make sure that we make it as accessible as possible for all audiences. Access to the Texas Aquatic Science teacher guide, and that's because this is one of our activities, and it's actually in Chapter 8 of our Texas Aquatic Science. And so sampling materials, these I can provide for you as well too as equipment if we're going to be going into the waterways. And the benefits, it's to update this bug picking sheet. TCEQ, it's in their water education field guide. So many agencies use this. So you'd be updating this for people all across Texas. And it's really going to enhance student and adult learning. And so that's a line drawing that I was talking about. And those are the upper pictures of becoming an outdoors woman just this past week. So we are out on the water's edge doing that. What's in it for the volunteer? You'll be the connection. You'll be the lead for connecting all these aquatic leaders. Develop a new product that many are going to use. And so I'm going to actually talk with, I have there the Texas Water Specialist hours. I may work with the volunteers because if you're supposed to put these hours for these projects into the virtual opportunity, the virtual fair opportunity, I can maybe just in my spreadsheet, I can mark these hours down on the side as Texas Water Specialist hours. And how'd you be helping me? Absolutely abundantly. I'm one person doing a lot of about 7 statewide programs. And so that's how you'll be definitely helping me, and my contact information. If anybody wanted to, please sign up through that opportunity and that link that Michelle and Mary Pearl have. And so I think I'm like 3 minutes early, and during that 3 minutes, I'm trying to let me stop sharing maybe
Oh,
that's
that's fine. You can
probably
leave your screen up for a
okay.
minute, Melissa, if you want, just so people have your contact information.
Okay.
So there was one question from Lisa: would the type of microinvertebrate vary based on ecosystem? In other words, would the far west aquatic species vary dramatically from the far east Texas invertebrate species?
Great question. So they this actual species may be different, but the grouping, the family of that species may be the same. And so that's why I wanted to provide is dragonflies. There are so many species of dragonflies on this sheet. There is actually one dragonfly nymph. I'd like to put like 3 different sort of examples because there can be your green darner can be completely different than a spreadwing or something like that. And so having maybe 3 or 4 examples of different dragonfly nymphs as well. And because Texas is so different and or so large and many ecosystems, to try and have that. And that's part of that beginning discussion meeting to get partners from all over Texas to really have input to make this a truly Texas specific guide.
Awesome. Thank you. I will say this activity, I remember being introduced to it at the Wildlife Expo in Austin headquarters in the 1990s. And I used to use it a lot when I first started in San Antonio as an urban biologist with, just reaching out. And it's amazing the presence or absence of these invertebrates helps to tell you very easily the quality of the water that you're surveying. So it's a very empowering type of experience for sure that all ages can benefit from and love to actually learn. So
Definitely. Thank
all
you.
right. I still don't see any other questions, so awesome. But I appreciate this, and I may have a book for you, Melissa. So I'll reach out to you after the program. So you're actually our next speaker as well. So
I am.
I'm going to go ahead and just introduce you in case someone is joining us that hasn't been on earlier. This is Melissa Felty, and she's the Conservation Education Manager with Texas Parks and Wildlife. And her next project topic is macroinvertebrate guide. Oh, sorry. Texas Aquatic Science TEKS alignment. So that's actually another really important topic that definitely needs help because a lot of our master naturalists that work with schools and a lot of the teachers, they oftentimes have to have that in order to use it in the classroom. So even though there are these opportunities to teach kids with hands-on products are hard to come by, if they don't have those TEKS alignments, sometimes that can be very challenging for the teacher to incorporate it into the classroom. So Melissa, go ahead and upload and share. Are you able to share?
Yeah, I'm trying actually. I have everything up, and it's not pulling up the second PowerPoint. So let me see. Nope. That's not it. And this one's really, here we go. This one's
Okay, it's coming up.
faster.
And just put it in PowerPoint mode. I'm seeing all your other slides on the left side. So
Yeah, I got to shift and move. It came up completely different than
that's all
the
right.
other one. So,
Okay.
all right.
Feel free to get started when you're ready.
Thank
Awesome.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, cool. Once again, I'm Melissa. So this is continuing with the Texas Aquatic Science. And so this one is TEKS. So what are TEKS and even what is Texas Aquatic Science? So Texas Aquatic Science is a curriculum for middle school and high school. And it goes all the way from molecules in chapter 1 all the way through all the ecosystems. And then at the end, it goes into water law and fishing. And so that's what Texas Aquatic Science is. What are TEKS? TEKS are Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. They are state standards. They are set for each grade level in the course and what those students should know and should be able to do by the completion of that grade level and that course. So extremely, extremely important that all of our activities and our programs are aligned to TEKS. So the outcomes, 60-ish activities aligned to the TEKS. I know that sounds like a lot, but a lot of the activities are relatively the same in concept. So I'm going to throw, these are some screenshots, and so you may be like, holy cow, my feathers are ruffled. You're like, I have no idea what that means. Well, it's actually pretty simple. There are what these TEKS, you'll see that if it's the it's got a 6 in front of it. That's 6th grade, 7th, 7th grade, 8th grade. And then there's aquatic science, and this is actually an error that we fixed. So thank you so much if any of the previous volunteers that went through over 700 pages of this TEKS Aquatic Science teacher guide. We went through and we updated over 700 pages, and this was about a year and a half ago, but that was changed to environmental systems. So so I understand that that is an error. And so then what happens is we go, and so the first one I showed you is that's each activity. So each activity is aligned from 6th to 8th grade, and then also aquatic science and environmental systems. And so this then is all of taking the 60-ish activities and taking all of them for 6th, 7th, 8th aquatic science and environmental systems. You may be like, ooh, that is too much for me to handle. But the one thing is for teachers and educators, what do you think that they're going to see? They're going to see a huge smile on their face, because this is what's going to help them. They generally cannot teach anything unless it's assigned to the TEKS. And so, and if you do that for the teachers, that's where they're going to have that big smiley face. And what this transition is the TEKS were just for the aquatic science and environmental systems. They were just updated. It was actually a couple years ago. So if you'll see, like, we'll just take the 1A and B. That may have been shifted to possibly 3A and B or something like that. Some of them maybe didn't change. And so that's what the streamlining is, and the updates and the changes that I'm looking for the outcome is just to update the TEKS. So I've already have them from the 2018 updates. So this is just seeing if any of the numbers changed. So project logistics, about 2 to 3 volunteers, because there's the 60-ish activities that we have. That's why it can be divide and conquer. And so location is just at home. And so you can have your coffee. You don't even need to do your hair, because you can keep just your audio on and talk. And so the flexible time commitment as well too. It's the same thing. Initial project meeting, that's going to be 1 hour. So that's working with me and the selected volunteers. And a check-in meeting about halfway through, about 30, and that will just be maybe about 30 minutes or so. And variable hours depending on the TEKS knowledge. So if you are knowledgeable in TEKS, it may not take you. You're like, yep, I'm used to this. I know on how to switch and change. If this is something that you're looking at conquering and being like, I've always wondered what those TEKS were, and I'm going to try and go for that, please sign up for it. It's something that is definitely needed. The completion date, it's a tighter turnaround. If it doesn't happen by then, that is okay. But I was looking at the end of July 2023, because the school year is about mid-August. So in order for me to get the changes on the website and stuff like that, so for the next school year. So if that doesn't happen by then, that is completely fine. But that's my projected completion date. For the experience, equipment, and advanced training that's needed, computer with the internet. And that's really just looking at the Texas Register. That's where the TEKS are, when they're finalized, that's where they're put. And I have all those links already, so nobody needs to go and try and dig through the weeds and try and find that. So I have the links already ready and set to share. Word and Excel. So the Word document just needs to be updated, and I have that from the previous, the 2018 update. And then what I was looking at, if the volunteers would like to, instead of it just being written like you saw, that it's just all the numbers and letters and just a sentence and paragraph form, there's actually a really nice, or another way to organize it is having like check boxes. So it would be the TEKS at the top and the activities here, and then it just be a grid and a check mark. So a teacher can really just go and look at, this is the TEK I need to accomplish, go down the row, and then they look at the check mark, and that's the activity. So that's sort of almost like a step 2 if somebody wants to continue and get more hours helping out. It'll be done by Teams, Zoom, or GoTo, like the TEKS Flyers webinars, GoToWebinar, whatever the platform is that the volunteers are comfortable with. And definitely access to the Texas Aquatic Science Teacher Guide to be and the access for both projects. All it is just asking me for a password through our access through our TPWD website. And so these are the grade levels. So science for grades 6 to 8. The only ones that we're going to do is we're just going to do the science state standards for grades 6 to 8. Aquatic science is for high school. It's an elective course. Environmental systems for high school. And the one thing, if we can get to it, and this can be something that continues on as well too, if somebody wants to continue on with this project, is aligning it to biology. And so it is not currently aligned to biology TEKS. And so that's something that I really feel is important, and they really should be aligned to the biology TEKS. So that's in addition to, and that's almost like a step 2 as well too. The benefits, it's really to help the teachers understand each student's expectations. And also, if they're not TEKS aligned, there's not going to be any implementation by those teachers. So if they don't have these TEKS, they probably won't use this. So it's really important that we want this to get into the hands of the teachers to be able to share that with their students. What's in it to the volunteers, it's really nice if you do any education as a volunteer, it's really nice to learn those educational concepts and topics. That is very important in the formal classroom. So making that connection between the connection of language and topics between formal and informal education is actually really, really important. And it will make you as an educator, you're like a next step level to make those connections. Investigate the aquatic science activities. And once again, this is Texas Water Specialist hours, but I will, after this, I will ask or work with Michelle, because I saw that I was not aware that there is a certain opportunity to sign up for those advanced training hours. So more later on that. And then how would you be helping me? Same thing, tremendously. This is something that is incredibly important. And I'll just say I am not 100% up on TEKS. I try to be, but if anybody is out there, that has better knowledge than me, I need that help. For the aquatic science high school, I've already sort of drawn like if it was like 8.8 A, B, and it was shifted to 5. I already sort of handed that, so it's working with the volunteer just to make sure my my streamlining is correct. So it's the same thing, same information. Everything is there. So the conservation edu, I'm just going to say, is a new email address. And so that's just in case of transition. Here with Outreach and Education Department, we're really trying to, so with Kiki Corey, with Project Wild and stuff like that, instead of using Kiki Corey, it's Project Wild. And same thing here, conservation education. So during transitions, and I am 4 minutes early.
That's perfectly fine. That gives us opportunity actually for Q&A. I do see some comments. Obviously, everyone is loving your photos in your presentation. Myself as well. I love the hair with the dogs, the before without camera and with camera. And then let's see. Mary Pearl, did you see any questions?
Yeah, I haven't seen any questions yet.
Okay.
Just that a few retired teachers have piped up and said that they would appreciate this type of help and would have appreciated this type of help in their classroom as well.
For sure. And if you are a retired teacher, this would probably be even easier for you to grasp if you can assist Melissa on this project, I would assume. Correct, Melissa?
Yes, most definitely.
Because you're very familiar with the TEKS potentially, and so it might be easier to really help on this project. So awesome. I don't see any questions per se. So thank you so much, Melissa. Let's see. I think that was, yes, that was your last one. So we do have about
I see a few questions, actually. I'm sorry, Judith.
You do? Okay, go for it.
There's one question about the Survey Monkey. I will fix that. You should be able to sign into the Survey Monkey as many times as you want. So I'll get that fixed right now for you, Jean. And then Leanne asks, I'm not a teacher, but if a teacher needed help with a project, do they know they can reach out to TMN for help? That's a great question that I think is beyond just Melissa and Judith and I. That's really a local connection with your community of educators, getting to know your school district, getting to know your science curriculum coordinator if you have one for your school district, letting them know that the resources like Master Naturalist exist as a way to engage in education with their school, participate in programs. Remember, there are restrictions when it comes to members of the public entering school grounds. There's a process that you have to go to walk onto school property. Even as a parent, I have to sign into the front desk and things like that. But yeah, Leanne, I would work with your local school district to make that relationship.
So we have about a little over a minute. So if y'all want to take a quick break, grab some coffee, feel free to do that. And we will start exactly at 10 o'clock with our next speaker. And Karina, oh, I see you're on. So if you'd like to go ahead and start sharing, feel free to do that. And we'll do just a quick audio check to make sure I can hear you.
Hello.
There you are. Hello.
All right. Let me share my screen really quick.
It's coming up. I see it. Just put it in presentation mode.
There we go.
Okay. And we have a few seconds, so I just want to make sure people can get back to their screen in case they took a quick break. So we'll hold off just a few seconds. And if Melissa, if you're still on, oh, I see you're still on. Thank you for both of those great presentations on your projects. All right, it's 10 o'clock, so if you hear my voice, please come back. We're going to start with our next presenter. Our next presenter is Karina Araujo. She's the marketing manager with Texan by Nature, and her project title is Virtual Tour of Texas, Flora and Fauna of Every Ecoregion. And feel free to go ahead and start whenever you're ready, Karina.
Thank you so much, Judith. Like Judith said, my name is Karina. I am with Texan by Nature. I'm the marketing manager there, and our project is Virtual Tour of Texas, Flora and Fauna of Every Ecoregion. So I'll start with a little bit about Texan by Nature. Our mission is to advance conservation that is beneficial to people, prosperity, and natural resources. Texan partners deeply with conservation groups and business, acting as an accelerator for conservation groups and a strategic partner for business. And our vision is for every business and every Texan to participate in conservation and for Texas to be a model for collaborative conservation for the world. So let's get into the project. We believe that conservation is for everybody, but we know that education and outreach are critical for the conservation of our natural resources and natural areas. We also know that nature access is not always available in cities and urban areas, but we believe that social media presents the opportunity to educate more people in different areas all at once. So what can we do? We need the expertise and the passion of Texas Master Naturalists. We want to get people excited about conservation and the natural world and going outside. We know that the average American spends 7 hours of screen time per day. So we want to reach them there and inspire them to go outdoors a little bit more. So project expectations and project outcomes. We want to inspire Texans of all geographies to go outdoors and experience the wonders of our natural world. From the Texas Master Naturalist volunteers, we would like to have 15 to 30-second video educational features for flora and fauna in each ecoregion. We want to develop a photo gallery of flora and fauna found in each ecoregion. And we want to create a Texas Outside social media campaign, encouraging people to go outside and to explore the things that they can find in their ecoregion. So project logistics. This project is completely remote. You'll complete the videos and the photos and everything from your location. We're looking for 2 to 3 naturalists per ecoregion, a total of 20 volunteers. You'll be provided a content plan. You'll be provided instructions and tips for content creation. And you can begin as soon as you're ready. Hours and time commitment are flexible. The content will be deadline driven. So we're expecting about 4 social posts per month per master naturalist. And the total project time should be 6 months to 1 year. Experience and equipment. Equipment needed, just your phone, your digital camera, your computer. Expertise, there's no previous experience needed, no additional expertise other than your expertise as a master naturalist. We'll provide prompts and copywriting tips to get you started and get you inspired with creating some of this content. And if you need help editing video or sorting through photos and things like that, Texan by Nature can help with that. The benefits for you. You gain experience developing social media content for your area of expertise, which I follow a lot of master naturalists online. So some of you may already be doing this, but we'll provide a framework and additional prompts, additional ideas. You'll also be credited and recognized for your contributions on our social platforms. So you'll be reaching an audience of about a little bit over 30,000. And then you'll be fulfilling your Texas Master Naturalist mission of providing education and outreach and service dedicated to the beneficial management of natural resources and natural areas within your communities in Texas. That is my contact information. You can email me at karina@texanbynature.org. And then you can fill out the Survey Monkey survey. And then that is it from me. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you so much, Karina. Let's see. I don't think there are any questions yet. So again, on this project, no experience is required, you said, correct? But if you're creating a video, is this something that a certain software is going to be needed to do this?
No, definitely not. So if your video, let's say you're recording a video of a flower or something, we'll provide guidelines, like for example, recorded in portrait mode instead of landscape, record 15 to 30 seconds. And basically from your phone, you would be dropping this into a drive online, and then there goes your content. And then of course you would write your caption, and we'll provide guidelines and content writing tips for that as well.
So essentially the video and would the person taking the video, would they be the one speaking as well on that video clip?
Yes, if they'd like to speak, we'll have options if you want to speak on the video, if you don't want to speak on the video. But a lot of it is just going to come from your expertise. So whatever excites you, that's in your ecoregion that you want to share with everyone else, that's really where it's going to come from. And then again, flexibility on whether you actually want to appear in the video. Maybe you just want a voiceover. Maybe you just want to write it all in the caption. That'll be flexible.
I do have another question, because the reason I ask is because I had a Texas rat snake eating a rat in my backyard that I was able to capture. And so on my iPhone, and I was trying to do different takes. I was trying to say something meaningful while I was videoing this rat snake eating, because I love Texas rat snakes and they're very beneficial and provide a community service. So I was trying to imply that during the video, and I had to do several takes. By the time I did the fourth snippet, the rodent there was only a tail left, and so I really didn't capture the best part, but I had spoken on all of the other video clips. So is there a way to, I guess, take that out if somebody really messes up during their take on capturing an image, and they speak? Can you sound that out in some way, or is it not possible? Is it better just to maybe, if you don't feel comfortable, maybe just take the video and then add the sound audio later?
Yeah, so if you let's say you decide, okay, I want to speak over the video while it's happening, and then you decide, you know what, I don't like that sound, we can definitely edit the sound out for you, and then you can just maybe record it on your own and just record the audio, send us the audio, and we'll plug it in.
Good to know.
There's been a few questions in chat as well. Eleanor wants to know, will we also be able to share the content we create on our private pages? She'd love to be able to share it with her friends.
Definitely. I mean, the more people see it, the better. That's really the goal. I think the only thing we would say is use the hashtag, the Go Outside Texas hashtag, or Texas Go Outside. And again, you can share it in your private platforms, as many as you want, as long as more people see it.
And then Barbara wants to know, I think a little bit more about the scope or the region focus. I think you said statewide, but she wants to know where you are suggesting that folks take these videos and pictures. Specifically for master naturalists, we do require our restrict our master naturalists to engage in service on public property or publicly accessible property. So taking videos in their backyard wouldn't be approved because that's within their own backyard. But in other places, is there restrictions or limitations or ideas that you have for where you see master naturalists taking videos publicly?
No, agree. I mean, publicly accessible areas, because part of the go outside is, hey, you can find this at this state park, for example. So yeah, definitely areas that are available to the public.
Great. And then Julie Vickers is asking, what social media platforms are best for Texan by Nature?
So we're actually active on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. This campaign will probably focus a little bit more on Instagram, but it'll be published on all of our platforms.
Wonderful. And then Lisa is asking if you are looking for photos mostly or additional blurbs about the habitat. What is your ideal submission under this project?
So we'll provide you some guidelines for what we want to see for each post, but it should be either a photo or a video. Videos don't have to be long. It could be 15 to 30 seconds. And then the caption should be educational. So what are we seeing in the photo, or what are we seeing in the video, and what really specific expertise can you as a master naturalist provide that maybe, somebody who's not a master naturalist might not know about this specific photo.
Great. And then Martha asks a question that might be something that Michelle needs to answer. She asks, is this something we could do if we're not in our region? Can we compile posts from past photos, experiences, trips, things like that? Michelle, do you want to address the Master Naturalist Service region question that I think is in Martha's question there?
I think really would depend on what Texan by Nature is looking for as far as the content.
Okay. Great.
All right.
That's all the questions. I think I've gotten all the questions in the chat so far too.
So we still have about 4 minutes left. So Karina, I appreciate your time today. So we will just go ahead and take a short break opportunity again if you're listening. And we will start our next presentation at 10:15. So you have a few minutes if you needed to take a break. And thank you again, Karina.
There's a few other questions in the chat.
Good.
If you want to answer some of those in the chat as well, you could do that. There we go.
Thank you again, Karina. All right, so we have about a 3-minute window of opportunity to take a short break. I believe the last 3 are the ones that are also Ecoregion specific. Is that correct, Mary Pearl?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Amie, I made you presenter if you want to try just sharing real quick as we're kind of moving over. Looking good. Looks good.
Amie, do you want to do a quick audio? You're welcome to turn on your audio just to make sure we can hear you
Can
as
you
well.
hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to stop for a second because it won't let me turn my video on. So let me start video. There we go.
Also, I see you. And go ahead and share your screen now. There we go. It's
Everyone
coming up.
see it?
Yes, ma'am. We see
Good.
it.
Perfect.
So do you speak German, Amie?
I do not.
Okay.
My husband is German.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
German. And in fact, both of our names are not at all even pronounced remotely German.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say I can pronounce it German because I do speak
Yeah.
German.
In America, it's Treuer-Kuehn, which sounds nothing like Treuer-Kuehn, which is
That's
my
right.
guess in German. Yeah.
So it's truer?
True like true or false, yep, and
Uh-huh.
keen like peachy keen.
Okay.
It's a stumbler for most people. We have lots of U's and E's, my husband and I.
Yeah, so my dad's Hispanic, my mom's German. So
Mhm.
I took Spanish in school, but really didn't get much opportunity to speak it in the real world. And of course, I'm fluent in German because I spent most of my life over in Germany, my growing up years, I should say, and
Right.
my mom's family. And then it was oh, it's time. Sorry.
That's okay.
Say that for another chance. But the only time I got to use my German was actually at a state park in West Texas. I was like, wow, okay. So at least I got to speak German on the job at one time.
Right.
That seems to be a hot combination there, Judith, because I have a few cousins that German
and
and
Hispanic.
Hispanic, yeah, all from West Texas.
All right, so our next speaker is going to be, here we go, sorry. Amie Treuer-Kuehn. She's the ecologist with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and her project today is discovering Bigtooth maple canyons, the hunt to map a unique Texas habitat. So feel free to get started when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I'm Amie. I work in the landscape ecology program here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're discovering bigtooth maple canyons here with in the landscape ecology program, and how we could use your help hunting this unique habitat. So what are bigtooth maples? They're small to medium-sized deciduous trees. They are known for their beautiful fall color if you've ever been to Lost Maple State Natural Area. On dry slopes, they occur as multi-stem trees, or in mesic or moist canyon bottoms, they're typically single-trunked larger trees. Their leaves are opposite, like in the left-hand picture here. They're palmately lobed with 3 to 5 lobes. And then they have in the spring small yellow flowers and produce typical of a maple. Samaras, which are winged fruits, or as when I was a kid, we used to call them helicopters and throw them around in the sky. So really beautiful trees and very unique in Texas. They are uncommon in Texas. They do occur in the Edwards Plateau and cross timbers, which is the focus of this project. But they do occur in higher elevations in the Intermountain West. They are considered rare, threatened, or vulnerable in multiple states, which is why we are interested in these plants and plant communities here at Texas Parks and Wildlife. And their habitat is typically isolated deep limestone canyons. So this is what bigtooth maple canyons look like within the Edwards Plateau. We're 2 imperiled communities. one in the Edwards Plateau, the Southern Edwards Plateau Bigtooth Maple Canyon Forest, and the other land pass is Cut Plain Bigtooth Maple Canyon Forest, which occurs in the cross timbers. They are both very similar in plant composition. Both of them have canopies that are dominated by bigtooth maples, have similar other species in common like chinkapin oak, Texas red oak, Arizona walnut, black cherry, Texas ash, ash juniper. However, in the Edwards Plateau, lacy oak tends to occur in the canopy and American basswood, while in the cross timbers, you can get a more eastern species that occur in the canopy called Dorian oak. Both of them have multiple endemic other plant species in their understory and in the herbaceous layer of the plant community. So there's a couple endemic herbs in the Edwards Plateau that occur in these community. One of them being spreading leaf daisy and the other dark noseburn. And in the cross timbers, we have Texabama croton, which is a shrub, and our Texas snowbell that often occurs in the understory. And as of note, the Lampasas Cut Plain Bigtooth Maple Canyon Forest is really only known from Fort Hood. So we are in search of it elsewhere outside of that area. So why are we doing this? Some of you may be familiar with our team tool that hosts our ecological mapping systems data. This is our statewide vegetation data. It is current. Some of it is coming up on 15 years old, and we are in an effort to remap the state. We do have 403 habitat types mapped, but we can do better. So some of the things we couldn't map 14 years ago included canyons. And in particular, differentiating bigtooth maple canyons from other deciduous forests. So this is what we need your help with. So how do we do this sort of in-house, mostly remotely? We do use ground truth data and citizen science data to help with these. To create canyons, we start with elevation models, create watershed or drainages. We create what's called a geomorphon, which is in the bottom picture down here. And that's simply the different parts of a canyon. So valleys, slopes, ridges, peaks. And we extract the adjacent canyon features or geomorphons from the watersheds or streams, and then limit it to anything that is steeper than 35 degrees to kind of isolate those lower hills that are not considered canyons. So it looks like this. We start with the watershed. We look at the differences in elevations. We start piecing together those pieces of canyons and combining them until we have a map of a canyon. So we've done that for a pilot area in the Western Hill Country in Edwards, Real, Bandera, Kinney, Uvalde, and Medina County. The upper picture is what those detailed canyons look like. We've mapped over 10,000 canyons in this area alone. We are currently expanding this to all of the Edwards Plateau and the cross timbers. And that will be incorporated into that Texas vegetation map. The next step we do here is we model different type of canyons. So some of these canyons may be ash juniper. Some of them are those rare bigtooth maple canyons. Some have other deciduous forests located within them. So the goal is to get what type of canyons are these and where are bigtooth maple. To do that, the next step is sort of to stack different environmental variables for each canyon, all 10,000 of them. Things like land cover, distance to spring, range of slope, maximum elevation, and then geology. So we stack all that information together, including some soils information, look at where we have known location, which are these blue dots here, from both iNaturalist and data we have at Parks and Wildlife. We extract the environmental things that occur where those bigtooth maples occur and try to find similar canyons or predict out from there. So that's why we need your help. We do not have a lot of data on bigtooth maple canyons. And the more data we have, the more accurately we can predict. So this is what a prediction map looks like. Dark blue areas are high probability of bigtooth maple. These are actually where we have maples. Green are a little less probability down to beige, we're not sure those would have any maples at all. So we really need your help in order to better target conservation on the ground for these unique habitats. And why do we need your help? Well, Edwards Plateau and Cross Timbers are a large area. Our landscape ecology program consists of 5 employees. We have a handful of other ecologists and botanists here that work on plant communities, but we really can't visit every part of the state. And of course, we're limited to public lands. So all these kind of gray areas are public lands within the ecoregions. So we're needing help accessing private lands as well. If you look at iNaturalist, there's about 640 bigtooth maple observations. 208 of those are in West Texas. Oops, sorry about that. 208 of those are in West Texas. And while we're interested in those, we're not currently working in that area. We'll get to those eventually. But we're really interested in this area here. So it looks like we have a lot of data. But if you pull out those that occur in urban and suburban areas, so mostly landscape trees that folks take a picture of, or they're located within an urban park, and the 26 of those had obscure locations, which won't work for mapping. We end up with 272 possible occurrences for predicting bigtooth maples, which is what this looks like here. Of those, 171 are in Lost Maples State Natural Area. And we are all glad you are visiting that beautiful natural area, but that incorporates about 2 or 3 canyons, and we need a mix of variables, the whole range of where these maples occur and what those environmental variables might be to help predict out so we can start targeting conservation on the ground. So what we need, we've created a project in iNaturalist, of course, the Bigtooth Maple Hunters Project. And we're really needing your help just going out and collecting data where bigtooth maple canyons occur both within the Edwards Plateau and Cross Timbers ecoregion. I know most of you use iNaturalist. So of course the equipment needing is cell phone and an iNaturalist account. Of course, some knowledge or at least interest in plants and plant communities. You must have permission to share the exact location in order for us to use the data. We want data on both public and private lands. Obviously, we have a ton of data from Lost Maples. And again, love that you visit there, but we're really needing data outside of there. Looking for natural communities only, so typically not planted trees in urban parks or in your neighbor's lawn. And it must have a clear date and clear photo. So training and benefits. We are going to set up some field training dates to learn more about these ecosystems. It's just we're kind of waiting to see how much interest we get. Of course, Lost Maples would be one we could visit and at least describe the community. Everybody can get an idea of each species that occur within the plant community. But there's some other, a little more remote bigtooth maple canyon sites we could visit. They require a bit more of a strenuous hike. So we could set up a couple different dates to teach you about these plant communities so that you can learn all about them. And of course, you'd increase your iNaturalist observations. We are considering, so we do mapping across the state. And as I said, we're updating the whole state vegetation map. Currently, we're working along the Gulf Coast. So we may expand this project to help identify where shell ridges occur along the Gulf Coast or things like deep sand woodlands within the post oak savanna. So if you're not within these 2 ecoregions, if this turns out to be a success and we get a ton of volunteers, we would love to extend it out to other ecoregions as we get to mapping those as well. I do have my contact info. If you have questions outside or after this, there is a link to what we do within the landscape ecology program. And then, of course, there's a link to our iNaturalist project here. So I can take any questions if anyone has any.
We have a couple questions about permissions.
Mm-hmm.
So Lisa asks, how would we indicate we have permission? And then her follow-up question to that would roadside require permission also?
Roadsides do not require permission. That's how we collect a lot of our data in the state of Texas. you can have, if you're with a friend or a family member on their property, you can get verbal permission in iNaturalist. That would be up to you. We also have, if we do a training, we'll bring some forms that would allow it to not only go into iNaturalist, but also into the Texas National Diversity Database here at Parks and Wildlife that grant landowner permission to share the data. So we do have some legal forms as well. If you're a little worried or concerned that your neighbor or friend doesn't want you sharing the data.
And then the other question we have is from Cynthia, and she asked that she knows of trees or these trees planted at Bamberger Ranch. Are those specimens you would want documented also?
And I think they're planted there in natural habitat, but I'm not 100%. It would be good if we could maybe get with Bamberger and do a training day out there. I think that would be pretty interesting to see the difference of where he's planting them compared to how they occur naturally in the environment. So I think that's a fantastic idea. I completely forgot he had been planting them out there. So thank you.
So I guess my follow-up question to that is, are you looking, are planted species of value to this project, or is that an offshoot of maybe a follow-up to this project? Do you want only like native naturally occurring?
For this project, native naturally occurring, but planted could be an offshoot to see where people are planting these and are they succeeding, and are they proper self-propagating, producing more trees? That would be all interesting information for us to have as well.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today. I don't think there are any other questions, I believe. No, I don't see anything. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Amie. Really appreciate
Thank you.
joining us. And it looks like we have about 1 minute before we get started with our next presenter. And Katelyn, if I see you're on, so feel free to go ahead and start sharing so we can get you set up and ready. Okay, it's popping up. Just put it in presentation mode and feel free to say something so I can make sure your audio is working as well.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome.
Okay, you're in presentation mode and it is 10:30, so we'll get started. So Katelyn Landry is our next presenter, and she is the Program and Education Coordinator with Lake Jackson with the Lake Jackson Historical Association, and her project is titled Natural History and Environment of Jackson Plantation Historic Site. So feel free to get started whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone at Texas Master Naturalist for having us be a part of this fair. I'm excited to share this project with you. I'll start by talking a little bit about Lake Jackson Historical Association. We are a small nonprofit public history organization in Lake Jackson, Texas, which is in southern Brazoria County, quite near the coast. We manage 3 sites. We have the Lake Jackson Historical Museum, we have the Jackson Plantation Historic Site, which will be the topic of this project, and then we also have the Alden B. Dow Office Museum. And so because our mission is to provide education relative to the history and culture of this area, we're really interested in learning more and being able to interpret the natural history and the environment of the Jackson Plantation Historic Site. So that way we, again, can educate our visitors about the history of the natural environment, in addition to the history of human occupation, which is what we currently focus on. So what we need TMN volunteers' help and expertise on is to help us identify flora and fauna species at the site as it exists today by visiting the site and taking photos and sort of inventorying the plants and animals that are there. We would also rely on TMN volunteers to conduct additional research to determine how the natural environment may or may not have been different in the past. So there are several periods of occupation at this site that I'll talk about, and we're really interested in knowing how the environment was back then, how it's changed over time, and what it's like now. So The desired outcomes of this project, the primary one is just a written report detailing the site's natural history and the current environment. This would be the primary end goal for volunteers, is to compile all of their research into a piece of written information that we can conserve and use for these future projects. And so things like social media posts, visitor handouts, and interpretive signage are all things that the museum staff will produce using the research that you guys conduct. And you guys are also very welcome to give us your ideas on how to do social media posts and visitor handouts and the like. But again, the written report would be the primary end goal. So to back up a little bit and tell you about the history of the site, before colonization by Anglo-Americans, specifically led by Stephen F. Austin, the site was occupied by the Karina people, the indigenous people up the Gulf Coast. They lived between Galveston and Corpus Christi. Karina artifacts have been recovered during excavations on the banks of Lake Jackson, the actual lake, and Shy Pond, another pond here in the area. When Anglo-American colonization began in the 1820s and 30s, the land was settled by a man named Abner Jackson. He established Lake Jackson Plantation in the early 1840s. It was a sugar and cotton plantation. Those crops were farmed and produced by enslaved people until the end of the Civil War. From the end of the Civil War through the 1940s, the land continued to change hands many times. This is an area that we're still conducting research on, and the land was still being cultivated to grow cotton, rice, and sugar. And then beginning in 1943, we have Dow Chemical Company coming in. They bought the entire former site and built a company town for their chemical plant in Freeport. A small portion of the site, which included archaeological ruins of the main house and the sugar mill, became what is known as Dow Park. And it was a public park until 1990, when it was turned over to the Historical Association. We have since conducted archaeological investigations there, and it is now a publicly accessible archaeological and historical site. So some of the questions we have is what kind of plants and animals existed in the prehistoric period of Karankawa occupation? What existed during the plantation era? How did sugar and cotton cultivation change or disrupt the natural environment? What exists today? What species are native? What's invasive? We are also curious about the lake itself and how it's developed over time. There's some conflicting stories about an island that may have been built in the middle of the lake. And finally, how were plants and animals utilized by these different cultures, such as for food or medicinal purposes. So for logistics, we are requesting only 1 to 4 volunteers. You're looking at 1/3 of the association staff. So as much as we would love to have a lot of volunteers, we want to make sure that we have the bandwidth to assist you guys properly. So a small volunteer team would be ideal. Research on the history of the site and check-in meetings with the staff can be conducted remotely from your home. However, looking at the site and seeing what species are there currently would have to be conducted at the Jackson Plantation Historic Site. These maps are a little bit small, but you can see where Lake Jackson is generally an hour south of Houston, and then the plantation site is near Brazos Mall, right off Highway 288. For a timeline, again, this can be flexible, but just so we have some dates in mind, give you a more concrete idea, I'm suggesting a 7-month timeline. So during the summer months, it'll be a little bit too brutal to be out there doing the site survey. So I think in those first few months, we can focus on doing the historical research. We will supply as much historical information that we have to you to aid in that. And this would be super flexible, suggested 4 to 5 hours a week, but that could change depending on how easy or difficult the research is proving to be. And then once the weather cools down a little bit in the fall, I think that would be a good time to do the on-site research. You go out there and you guys would take the pictures and determine what species are out there. And then finally in December would be when you guys are assembling that final report. I would like to set weekly check-in meetings as the precedent, especially in that first period of research time, so that way we can answer any questions you guys might have about accessing historical resources. But if we don't need to do weekly check-in meetings going forward, then we can do fewer. But just know that we want to be available to you as much as you need, because yeah, historical research can be a little bit time consuming. And since we're also blending it with research on agriculture and the environment, I'm sure we'll need to collaborate often, which is great. So desired experience and equipment. Of course, I would hope that the volunteers interested in this program have some experience in identifying plant and animal species in Southeast Texas and Gulf Coast environments. You would need a camera. I think a high quality smartphone camera would also be fine, and transportation to the Jackson Plantation Historic Site. We're only open to the public on the first Saturday of every month. However, the staff can absolutely go open the site at any time that's convenient for you, as long as you let us know. Being able to conduct online research is also a plus. That might sound a little bit scary, but really that just means be willing to spend some time on the internet, really looking through digitized documents, be comfortable reading, research papers, since there probably will be a bit of heavy reading at some point. But for that, we really only expect you to have computer and internet access. And finally, communication skills. Your ability to synthesize research findings into a piece of writing would be really important to produce that final report, and be able to work collaboratively with the staff and other volunteers remotely via Zoom or WebEx, whatever we determine would be most convenient for everyone. And finally, just another plus, if you have experience with social media, or you just want to learn more about putting together historically focused social media posts, we would really appreciate that. Any input that you guys might have on producing social media posts that highlight the research that you guys are doing for the general public. So the benefits and outcomes of this project, I think it would be really interesting and rewarding to strengthen all of our research skills by finding these relationships between natural history and cultural history. This would definitely enhance public awareness of the local ecosystem and the natural history of the site. Even though we've historically focused only on archaeology and social history at this site, I think it is a really important piece of land that has been conserved for a really long time. It was beloved when it was a park. It's right on the banks of our namesake of Lake Jackson. And so learning about that environment and teaching people about it is part of our responsibility of educating the public on the history of this city. And finally, this research that you guys do would be really helpful in designing future museum exhibits and interpretive programs. So even if we're not putting an exhibit together right away, it'll be useful for years and years to come. So that is everything I have. If you have any questions, please email me programs@ljhistory.org. You can also give us a call if you'd rather talk one-on-one. And if you're just curious to know what we're up to, I encourage you to follow our social media. The Plantation site is actually open this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if you're in the area and you want to check it out, please do. So thank you all for your time, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Katelyn. I appreciate that. There are a few questions. So Mary Pearl, I'll let you.
Yeah, there's a few questions, and Katelyn, you answered this question. You said that you guys are open one Saturday a month, correct?
Yes, we're open on the first Saturday of every month, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. To the general public. But for this project, if volunteers needed to get out there on a different day, we could definitely arrange that.
Would you also be able to arrange if a local chapter wanted to do a site visit as a chapter, just to do a tour, get to understand the property separate from this project, just come and visit y'all's property?
Yes.
Would you set that up?
Yes, absolutely. You can email me at the same email address that's on the screen. I'm in charge of setting up tours as well, so we'd be happy to show you around.
Awesome. Another question Catherine had about when you went into the history of the ownership of the property. She asked if there was an environmental assessment performed or any additional assessment done after the Dow Chemical. It was a Dow Chemical plant.
So So the thing about when Dow Chemical was developing this company town, a lot of the documents from when they first purchased the land are no longer available, no longer exist. It's very questionable where those documents are. I do know that when archaeological investigations were undertaken in the 1990s, they did do some environmental assessment, so we could supply that information. But as to what the site was like when Dow Chemical came in the 1940s, we don't have a lot of detail about that.
Okay, great. What an interesting project. What a great opportunity for Master Naturalists to help support your organization. And we mentioned this during the introduction, but for those Master Naturalists who have joined, this is a site visit, site-specific project for those volunteers that fall within this ecoregion. But I hope that this project and need has inspired you to think about other historical associations, other parks project areas that might need a similar type of support from Master Naturalists. So again, this is just a great way to showcase this specific project, but then also think about those other areas of need across the state. There's a few other questions that have come in. Judith, do I have time?
Yes, you got about 2 minutes.
Okay. Catherine asks, would there be room to perform some soil sampling around the areas?
So, because it is a state antiquities landmark, that's its official name, and it's an archaeological site, we're actually not allowed to dig into the ground at all. You could do some soil sampling near the area, just not within the boundaries of it.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, Mary Pearl.
Yeah, I
So
think the rest of the questions were answered.
we have about a minute left. Thank you again so much. Really appreciate your time, Katelyn, and hopefully you'll get some good volunteers to help you out on this project. Sounds like you guys need it,
Yeah.
being short-staffed at all. So
Yeah, well, thank
Yeah,
you very
awesome.
much for the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from anyone who's interested.
yes, ma'am. All right. And so our next speaker is going to start at 10:45. We've got a little less than a minute. So Alicia, if you're on, if you'd like to go ahead and share your
Alicia
screen.
might not be able to make it,
Oh,
but
okay.
she
Okay.
did send a video. Let me try and
I
see if I
see
can
something
share
that
that.
looks very odd on the screen right now.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
1 second.
Art.
I'm just gonna try this.
I am the park interpreter at Cooper Lake State Park Complex, located in Silver.
Michelle,
A little
did you
bit low,
share
but I can hear it
Michelle, did you share the sound when you shared your
The
screen?
description of what we're after is help
going up.
here at Cooper Lake State Park to create a seasonal trifold pamphlet that will.
Michelle, I don't think you shared the sound when you shared your screen.
Mary Pearl, there's a question about where to find the virtual volunteer fair
Recordings. Yeah,
recordings.
the recordings on this afternoon.
All right. You ready
You
for
go
me
ahead
to
and
start
Yeah.
it?
Yes. So Alicia O'Connor is the park interpreter with Texas Parks and Wildlife at Cooper Lake State Park. So she's not able to join us today. So we do have a recording that we're going to show. Go ahead, Michelle.
My name is Alicia O'Connor. I am the park
Sounds
interpreter
great.
at Cooper Lake State Park Complex, located in Sulphur Springs, Texas. A brief description of what we're after is help here at Cooper Lake State Park to create a seasonal trifold pamphlet that will become handouts as part of the interpretive resources. We'd like help with creating seasonal trifold pamphlets broken down in information for the Doctors Creek unit and the South Sulphur unit that include images of wildflowers, flowering plants, and trees with the accompanying fruits or nuts, fauna, fungi, and aquatic life. The finished product will be a series of seasonal trifold pamphlets naming flora, fauna, fungi, and aquatic species identified with an image. We could use 10 to 12 volunteers compiling data. Volunteers will have a year and a half to complete the project with seasonal progress check-ins. Volunteers can use eBird and iNaturalist data available by date, range, and locations. Work time is flexible. You can use your computer mostly with the option to conduct on-site seasonal surveys for data not captured from the eBird and/or iNaturalist. What kind of skills and abilities do you need? Mostly you're going to need to know how to use eBird and iNaturalist to locate data by date range and location, and the knowledge to create a trifold pamphlet using a template. What advanced training do you need? None that I'm aware of. What are the benefits for you, you might ask? Volunteers will gain a greater understanding of the flora and fauna of Cooper Lake State Park complex that consists of blackland prairie and cross timber regions. Volunteers will have an opportunity to explore the many beautiful areas within our park complex. Also, volunteers will contribute to the interpretive experience of Cooper Lake State Park complex by compiling these resources for our visitors. Most of the identifying data can be captured from iNaturalist and eBird. Remember, what is not available online is a short research visit away to the park. If you need to reach me, this is my contact information. My name is Alicia O'Connor. I'm the park interpreter at Cooper Lake State Park Complex. If you have any questions, please do contact me. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Please feel free to contact me with further questions concerning this project.
Well, thank you, Alicia. I appreciate that you provided that recording. That was definitely helpful versus just since you weren't able to attend versus just having our volunteers look only at your project information. So do appreciate that. And so, ladies, I don't know if you want to go ahead and move forward with our conclusion.
Yeah, I think we can. Since we're running into just the end of the day and the wrap up here. As a way to wrap up today's presentation, again, this is the schedule that we went to. I saw that there was a question about that in the chat. Specific to Alicia's, I did put this in the chat. We'll get that recording on our website as well. I understand that the audio was pretty low, but we'll get that up on our YouTube channel and then on our website so that if you are interested in that project, you can go back and review that as well. By this afternoon, I'll have all the recordings from both yesterday and today on our website so that you can review those again if you have specific segments or projects that you want to listen to again. But please refer to that catalog that we've been dropping the link in the chat a few times here, and I'll try and do it here in just a second again. But our catalog of projects is on our website, all over the chat room, hopefully as well. So that you can read more information about all of the wonderful projects that we've heard from today. Michelle, do you want to cover some of the basics of how to sign up for the projects just one more time?
So again, to sign up for any of the projects that you saw through the fair today, we have the SurveyMonkey link that we've been sending out throughout, and we'll post it here again in a second. Just add your name to any of the projects on that SurveyMonkey list that you're interested in contributing to. And we will keep that survey open through May 24th. After May 24th, we'll pull the lists and send the lists of people that have signed up to the project hosts, which were the presenters today. It will then be in the presenter's court to follow up with Master Naturalist volunteers, to vet the volunteers for their project, provide additional advanced training that might be needed for the project, and further information on next steps and how to get started. And just remember that several of these projects will have many volunteers register or sign up to assist with a project or say that they're interested in a project more so than spots might be available. So Just keep that in mind if you don't hear back from one of the hosts. So, and we may provide more another virtual volunteer fair in the future.
There are a few questions in the chat. How do you know if we're close enough to the place-based projects to participate? Is it based on Ecoregion? And that is the correct answer. It is the Ecoregion that you're in that will determine whether or not you can participate if it's Ecoregion specific.
Yeah, and we outlined all of that in those in the project catalog. So refer to the project catalog for that information. The other question that I answered in the chat is, can I sign up for more than one project? Absolutely. Sign up for those projects that you're interested in. As Michelle just said, some of these projects are going to have more volunteers sign up than what they may have positions for or need for. And so feel free to sign up for those projects that you feel comfortable and confident in being involved with.
And I'll just add, the project catalog does pretty much outline the same format that the presenters used. So most of the information is in that project catalog. And I would encourage you, if you're only honed in on one particular project and there are very few, the presenter only or the coordinator only needs just a few volunteers, definitely look at some of the other projects where they did say volunteers are unlimited. They really need a lot of volunteers. So see if that might be of interest to you, where they need a lot more volunteers too. And that you can also see in the project catalog, because it does indicate how many volunteers they need.
Yep.
So the other questions you may have as we're rounding out our day, and if you joined us after this morning's introduction, how do you log hours for today for attending the virtual volunteer fair or for watching it recorded if you're watching the recording after the fact? First thing to do is make sure you are signed up for the virtual volunteer service fair project that is on the VMS. When you log into your TMN VMS, sign up for that project. It will then appear in your opportunity drop-down list to report to. And after you've watched everything you wanted to watch, track your time to the nearest quarter hour for only the sessions that you watched today. And if you watched the entire thing, top to bottom, each day, you could report up to 2.25 hours per day for the virtual volunteer fair today. When you do report, the service performed would be reviewed or attended project intros at the virtual volunteer service fair. And next slide. Okay, the other question you may have as we're rounding out this day is how do you log hours to one of the virtual volunteer service projects once you start working on projects or you're contacted by the presenters to start working on projects. So once you start working on projects, there are two different types of projects that were presented today. The first type of project is a virtual project, which is a true virtual project where it can be worked on from anywhere in the state by any one of our volunteers. You would report to the statewide project TMN Virtual Volunteer Service Fair when you report your hours, and just do TMN report hours. When you do report your hours to that virtual project, tell what project it was, what you did, and then report the time that you spent working on that project. The other type of project that was presented today were place-based projects. And before you're able to report to those, you do have to have the project reviewed and approved by your local chapter. And just keep in mind that not all place-based projects that were presented today are available to every chapter. So like we just discussed from one of the questions in the chat, and Judith mentioned, the place-based projects are most likely available to chapters within that ecoregion or within the closest proximity to that place-based project.
Do you want to go over this one, or I think we've gone over this before, and I'll drop the link for the community science guide in the chat, although we didn't have projects that applied for this today. And then with that, let me skip ahead to the last slide here. Thank you guys for joining us for our 5th virtual volunteer fair. As mentioned, we'll get the catalog up, the SurveyMonkey link is out, all things are on our virtual volunteer fair website. Judith, thank you again so terribly much for being our MC, keeping us on time, and helping us to pull this program together for our Master Naturalists. We so greatly appreciate it. And then thank you to all of our volunteers and our project hosts for participating in today's event. Hope you guys learned something new, found a new way to volunteer, or found a new project, new conservation group, new site that you want to engage with. So excited to have lots of new opportunities for the upcoming months of service.
Thank you, Michelle and Mary Pearl, also for all of your hard work in putting this on. So,
Yeah.
Yours too.
So.
yes, I know, but you'll do a lot of behind the scenes work for sure.
All right, and with that, Michelle, let's get this recording stopped so that I can get it on the website ASAP.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.